So this one here is a little bit different. Ignore the same sweatshirt or shirt because I'm filming this right after I did the other one, the other review, because this one's a little bit different where there's going to be a little intro clip and I'm going to be talking more about, I guess, the lens, because I was able to recently, actually just came in today, I was recently, today and a couple days ago, I was able to pick up a new lens. For very cheap. It was a used lens, and it was this one here. Let's see if I can get it focus. This lens here. This is a Canon 20mm 2.8. A Canon 20mm 2.8 USM. So it's an ultra wide angle lens because it's over, what is it, 35 millimeters? I think what is it, under 50? Under 50 is a wide angle lens and under 35 is an ultra wide, something like that. I don't remember. But for basically everything that I've shot in these videos and for the most part, everything I've shot for the past while has been exclusively on this Canon 50mm 1.8. I do have other lenses and I have used other lenses, but the majority of what I shoot is on this Canon 50mm 1.8, which I actually quite enjoyed. I do really like this lens, as much as it is a plastic piece of shit, but it is such a simple lens, and it's because 50mm is roughly the closest focal length to your eye. It allows or forces me to frame shots with my eyes first and then shoot them, which is just a skill that I like developing. And it's such a simple lens, and there's nothing special about it. Well, it's such a simple everything that it's more about what you put in front of it, which is something that I like. So I finally picked up an ultra wide because with where I've been and everything that I've been shooting, there's been a lot of experience, because I already do own a telephoto, I just haven't used it a ton, and I don't have it with me right now. But this 2.8 or this 20mm right here, I do not currently own a wide angle, and there's been a lot of shots because sometimes I like to experiment with a little more landscapey stuff, or there's buildings that I want to shoot that it's just like, yeah, I gotta shoot it, and I'm not close enough to shoot to shoot up with the 50mm, to shoot it in like a detail shot, but I also can't do a size or anything like that I want because I don't have a wide angle. So what I want to do with this is I want to shoot on this for about the next week. I will be shooting on this for about the next week, and then I'll come back with the shots and talk about what I think of the lens. So yeah, just again, Canon 20mm 2.8 USM. Yeah, so I'll be shooting on this for the next week, and we'll see where we go from there and see what comes out of it. And alright, so it's been a little longer, did get a little bug, so anyways, I didn't do this like a normal way that you'd see this done, but I'll import a couple clips of where the places I'd shot were, but it's not gonna be, it's basically B-roll. But anyways, I'm going to do this in two sections. I'm going to start talking about the lens itself with how I've probably titled this. I'm going to make sure that how the lens works and my opinion on the lens is up front, and then I'm going to talk about wide angle photography in general, in case somebody's watching this and they haven't explored it at all. So, starting off with the lens itself, I did actually quite like it. Just to get that out of the way at first, I found I didn't have any problems with the autofocus on it. The look of it, I'm gonna have images kind of cycling through here. There is some contrast adjustment, slight color adjustments. I'll probably intermittently put raws in there as well, and I'll mark them when they're raws. But overall, there is some heavy vignetting around the edge. I do not personally mind that. I wasn't correcting for it or anything because when I shoot with lenses, I do try and shoot with like a lens. I try to use the effect of the lens, or like what the lens does. But overall, I did actually quite like the lens, and it's nice and wide. It's a 20mm. It's overall, I'd say it's very simple. If you need a 20mm lens, I probably personally wouldn't spend the amount of this lens at new. Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe the lens is about $4.99. It's about a $500 lens. I didn't pay that much. I got it used for around $100 at that price, or probably up to $100 to $200, I would say. Anything around there or less, I would say that it's worth it if you're looking for like just you're not, let's say you're just kind of venturing into wide angle photography, or you're you just want to experiment with it, or you just even for one project need a 20mm or anything like that. Obviously if like you shoot wide angle and that's like your thing and that's the lenses you like, and then probably not the lens for you. But if you're looking for a 20mm lens or just an ultra wide lens that does the job, looks pretty good and sharp, isn't going to be causing you many problems in terms of functionality and use, I would recommend it if you can get it used or for not retail price. At retail price, I'd probably say, because there's other lenses that might be a little bit more, but they have more features or something like that. Or there's going to be lenses that will do 70%, 80% as good of a job as this for much, much less. But if you can get it at a used price, again, probably $190 or less, $200 or less, if you can get a good used price on it, I would recommend it. But basically, I'd say it's a 20mm lens that is a 20mm lens. The autofocus works great. There's some vignetting, but overall, if you are looking at this lens and you think it's a good option for you, and you've never really shot on wide angle before, or you're just looking for something to have in the rotation or anything like that, I would recommend it personally. It does the job, and it's not like overly complex. You're not having to fight with it much. It will do what it needs to do. Obviously, I'm shooting on a good camera as well, which will change the procedure, but overall, personally, I'd say if you are looking at this as a like, oh, I'm kind of looking if I want to get the lens or anything like that, and you found a good price on it, I would recommend it personally. Now I'm going to move into shooting wide angle in general. I'm going to go off reference with some of the images, so I'll probably do more of what I have been doing of popping stuff up as I talk about it. And I'm just going to talk about my experience, because I haven't shot a lot of wide angle. Obviously, when I started shooting, I had the lens that probably 99% of people started on if they started digital, the kit 18 to 55. So it's not that I have never used a wide angle lens, but but normally when I first started, it was like the first thing I'd do when finding a shot was crank it to 55 or to 48. Never really experimented properly with the wide angle part, ever got comfortable with it. And so I'm just going to talk about my experience shooting wide angle properly. Which, starting out, it was always the first shot that I did, I was quite pleased with. I think I'd found something. It's not the best shot I've ever done like this, or it's not like the best shot that I've ever done at all, but I think that wide angle is something that works for this kind of shot, and I got lucky on that and happened to shoot something that I thought for me worked to some extent. But afterwards, when I was going through and shooting, the one thing I noticed that I was doing a lot was, or when I brought everything back, was that I was cropping a lot, which kind of defeats the point, because it's like the whole reason for wide angle is so you capture more, and then I was taking that I had captured more and shrunk it down, which again, obviously defeats the point of shooting wide angle a little bit, and I'm definitely gonna have to shoot more on it to get a feel for what I like and what works for me. Yeah, again, these 3 shots that I'm gonna put kind of cycled here were ones where I had a larger image. Actually, I'll put the raw in here, and then I'll show, or maybe not even the raw, but the uncropped, just to show how much I had taken out of it, where it's like the wide angle still did something, because it's still like the top and bottom are affected by it as well, but I did crop out a lot of data, which again kind of defeats the point of it. So being able to, because what made the 50 quite easy to adjust to is that, again, it's what you see is what you're going to shoot, and so you can frame things up in your eyes at first. Whereas on this, you're looking at a shot and you're like, oh, I think this would look nice, and you pull up the camera, and all of a sudden there's so much more than you'd actually seen, and there's so much more you have to account for. So it's like you look up, you set up the shot, and then it's like, oh, there's this trash can that's now in the shot, or this light post, or this wire, or whatever is now in the shot it's kind of like not, it's making the shot infinitely worse. Because again, it's like when you have a longer lens or anything like that, like again, 50 is not a long lens, but anything, but as you get longer lenses, it's like there's less, how do you say it? It's like there's basically just less in the frame. There's more control in what's in the frame specifically. Whereas on a wide angle, you start capturing more, and when you capture more, there's more area for things to go wrong. Or there's more that you have to look at and manage, which is a skill that I'll have to develop as I shoot it more. Something that I did like doing, or I did shoot a couple more landscapey shots, which worked great. I was able to get more of what I wanted, because I've shot landscape before on this lens, and in a lot of situations, I've definitely gotten some that I liked, but in a lot of situations, it was like I needed a little bit more, or I needed to be further back, or to get to an area further back that I just couldn't get to, because there was just like more that I wanted to capture than what I could get on this field of view. Field of view? I'm going to use that term, I might be wrong. Whereas with this, it's like I could stand in an area, and because it is wider and it captures more for these landscapes, it was getting more of what I wanted in the shot on both of these landscapes here. And another thing that I liked doing with it was getting up really close to a tall object like this telephone pole here, or the tree as well, because it kind of stretches it and makes it just seem like it just goes on farther and farther, which I thought was a nice effect. And you can do that on any lens really, but this again, it just stretched it that little bit more, which again I liked. What I started doing after a bit, because when I had first put it on and started shooting, I was like, okay, well, it's wide angle, so I'm going to try and do wider shots and capture more and everything. But the problem that I kept running into is there was too much in frame, there's too much going on, there was a little less control, a little less focus and everything like that. So what I decided to start trying to do was briefly shooting similarly to what I'd shoot on this, in more of a detail way, and just seeing how that would work, which I ended up with stuff more like this and this. It was it's similar to how I'd shoot before, and I'd be using it in a similar way to how I'd shoot, but it still is a bit different, and I feel like the wide angle was actually working really well in these kinds of shots, in my opinion. So that is definitely something for me to keep in mind and try and explore a little bit more of, is using wide angle to shoot detail, and using wide angle to shoot for size, and rather than just using wide angle to shoot large spaces that have a lot going on in them. Yeah, I'd say overall, in at least my experience shooting with the wide angle, or ultra wide angle, I guess would be a better term, is that where I've come from with it now, I, again, just need more experience and time shooting on it. But thus far, what my experience has kind of been is that my first instinct was just kind of stand back and shoot large spaces. But there's a lot that can go wrong there. When you can get a good shot on that, it's fantastic. Though, there's a lot that can go wrong and just make your images not great, in my opinion. But using it in other ways that actually does really well. Getting close to subjects or using them to scale or anything like that is actually a pretty strong point of it. And I'm excited to kind of get in and start messing around with less conventional ways of using it. Not saying that what I was doing was less conventional, this was very basic wide angle photography and just getting used to a lens. But trying to use this lens in an unconventional way, or using the wider aspect of it in a way that's like a little strange, or a little using it to create an image, is something that I'm excited to do. And it's like I'm having to force myself to think outside the box a little bit, because one of the things that I ran into was that when you set up, it's like, at least in my experience, just starting out on it, was like I would set up and then I'd be like, oh, it's just not working, because I think I'm still thinking like I'm using this lens, or I'm still looking for my shots like I'm using this lens, versus essentially a different medium. It'd be like trying to do something like, if you're used to drawing in pencil and then using watercolor like you're using a pencil, there's good aspects to it, and there's like, oh, gotta break out of some of these habits, or expand the way that I think about this medium or this tool. But overall, I'd say that's kind of where I am right now. I didn't script this out fully, so I don't know if my thoughts were just a little all over the place, but that's kind of where I think I am with the wide angle. I'm definitely going to use more of it, and because it is, when you get good shots, again, you get good shots on any lens, it just feels good, and it has a very different use case, and it's just a good tool that I'm happy that I added to my arsenal. So that's kind of all I have right now, but yeah, I'll see you around.